In this video, we're heading to the backwaters of the Mississippi River to go after giant grass carp on the fly rod. All right, I am fly fishing for giant grass carp on a backwater slough of the Mississippi River in my home state of Missouri. Going after the really big ones today, which are definitely in this area. Been trying to get a giant one for a long time. Caught some pretty decent ones, but not any, real significant monsters yet. So we'll see what we can do today. For those of you who are new to fly fishing or just fishing for carp in general, I made a video about why you should even consider fishing for carp some time ago. You can check that out. I'll leave a link in the video description below. And more recently, I did a really extensive video about how to go about fly fishing for carp more specifically. I'll leave a link to that one too. But it's an incredible challenge. I mean, these fish, they get really big. They're very, very difficult to catch, especially on a fly rod. And in my opinion, they're one of the ultimate challenges for any fisherman. And most of the time, you have an entire beautiful place like this all to yourself. I rarely ever see any other human beings out in the places that I fish for carp. So if you want solitude, just enjoy some peace and beauty and tranquility while fishing for some giant fish, this is the way to do it. My favorite fly for both common carp and grass carp is the Prince Nymph. I've had more success with this fly than any other. Now, the Prince Nymph is a very popular and effective pattern for trout, but as you'll see, it also works great for carp. This fly was created by Doug Prince in the 1930s and was originally designed to imitate immature stoneflies, but it was found that the Prince Nymph could also imitate a wide range of other aquatic insects that fish of all different species love to feed on. Here's how I specifically use it for fly fishing for grass carp. Okay, so here's how I set up fishing the Prince Nymph for these giant grass carp. When they're feeding on the surface, which is pretty obvious to see, you'll see this giant mouth, just kind of going along, feeding in the aquatic vegetation. And what I do is I'll have my Prince Nymph maybe about 4 or 5 inches, if that, below a little tiny strike indicator. And I'll put that kind of right in front of where they're feeding. And they're real spooky. If you have too big of a splash with your casting, they'll take off. So a lot of times I'll cast to the side where the fish is and slowly amend it back in, right in the path of where they're feeding. And if you're lucky, they'll hammer it. And sometimes they're super aggressive like a bass. You'll put it right in front of them and wham, they'll immediately hammer it. So you can try both ways, but typically specifically for grass carp, you want your fly just, 3, 4, 5 inches below a strike indicator. For common carp, it's different. But this is the typical setup I use for grass carp. All right, I've covered quite a bit of ground so far, and not a whole lot of activity as of yet. There's a couple little small ones I've spotted here and there feeding. But what I'm doing here is just real slowly, real quietly, kind of stalking the shorelines. And in these kind of slack water calm areas where there's a lot of cottonwood seeds and a lot of vegetation built up, that's where a lot of these grass carp will hang out and start to feed. So a lot of times you'll notice, just the top of their mouth out of the water, real slowly moving along. And they'll kind of dive back down for a bit and they'll come back up. And so I try to very carefully just kind of glide into these areas without spooking anything. And I've got a little anchor on the back of my kayak that I put down. And then I try to, just very gently cast, kind of right where they're feeding, or kind of off to the side, and then mend my line back into where they're feeding. So I just spotted actually 2 really big ones in this area back over there. I don't know if you can see they're back in that area. There's at least 2 in there, and they look really big. Their mouths are huge. Looks like they could fit like a racquetball inside their mouth, which is a sign of a giant grass carp. Typically, you can judge the size of these fish if you don't see them by their mouth. If they're got a mouth that can fit like a golf ball up to a racquetball, that's a big, big grass carp. So there's a couple of really big giants back in here. We're going to see if we can get them. Oh man, I'm gonna need your help with this one. Holy smokes, he's a friggin' whale. Whoa,
man, he's a big one. This is a big one. He's gonna be pulling me all over the river. He's a big one. This is a big one. Yeah, he's big. He was feeding over here forever. Him and another one. I mean, great big giant mouth. You can tell how big they are by their mouth. And man, they love that Prince Nymph. I put that Prince Nymph in their first cast. Wham! It's a little bitty fly on a great big fish, so they're kind of hard to land. I need to get a bigger net. They're hard to land with this net. You just got to real quickly scoop his head up once I get him subdued. Man, I don't know where I'm going to land this thing. I wonder if I have to, like, maybe. I mean, he is a tank. Ooh, look at my rod bending. Oh, man.
It's all about that, right? Ooh. Oh, yeah.
Man. Oh, boy, he's a tank. Look at the tail on it. There's like a whale tail. Golly.
Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes, he's a big one. I should have brought my... I don't know how I'm going to land this thing. It's pulling us around. It's a little bitty tiny fly, so I really got to be careful. I don't want to lose him. Like netting a salmon. I have to kind of like go down below him and try to force his head in there. I have to take him over to the bank and try to land him. Giant grass carp on the Prince Nymph. Had to get my brother here to help me land it. Holy cow, he was in there feeding on something, tried a couple different flies, but the Prince Nymph right in front of his face, wham, first cast. And there was just no land in this one from that kayak or even the canoe. Whew, just a horse. All right.
There you have it, my friends. That's a mighty big fish caught on a teeny tiny fly. However, the grass carp can get much bigger than that one, and I'll be trying to catch them. So stay tuned. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to this channel and check out the 3 Minutes Outdoors website at 3minutesoutdoors.com. And finally, if you'd like to support this channel, click on the link in the video description below to find out more.